art minor students. We are working on still our harvest basket, but this time we're working with color. And I am going to combine both colored pencil, which I'm doing right here, and watercolors. So always start with the lightest color. Now this is going to be true when you go to actually painting with oil paints or acrylics, any of them, watercolors, oil paints, acrylics. You start with the lightest color. So I started with a yellow in here, and I've gone across where it's white, but it's also yellow, and I'm gonna mix that in, and then I am going to make an orange part here. And you can use any kind of watercolor. I don't care if they're from the grocery store. Those are actually fairly decent. There was a guy in my drawing class who was a superb artist who went to CCAD, and he just used watercolors from the grocery store, and his paintings were exquisite, so it's okay. So I'm making, so see how and always go with the shape of whatever you're painting. So this guy is round, so I go like this. I make my brush strokes like that, and that contributes to the roundness. Now these are interesting. These are watercolor pencils. So I can add some of the color this way. And I think on the basket, I might do something with crayon. You can use whatever you can find. You can use all of it on one thing. And when you use more than one media, and then it's called mixed media. Media is plural, medium is one. I don't know if I did that perfectly, but I'll give you an idea. You're gonna do your shading. You're doing your values just like you did with black and white, but this time you're building them on top. So that's why this is going on top of that orange that I put in there. And it's, you can see it's not really orange. It's sort of a brownish color. Could you do a crayon? Yeah, you could. Will you have to experiment because of what you have to work with? You bet. Could you do it all in colored pencil? Sure. But you still start with the lightest color. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and darken this. And I think I cut off the stem on that. I know I did, because the stem's pretty much a whole lot longer. If your stem is longer, that stem I would start with a green. So a green about this color. And then you can let that dry if you're working with paint. If you're not working with paint, if you're working with a combination of stuff, you can draw into it with pencil. Now a regular pencil, let's try and see what happens when we use a regular colored pencil. So I got a whole drawer full of these things. Here's one. I don't even know the brand of this one, but can it work? You bet. So you just draw right over the top of it with your colored pencil, and that'll work just fine. And you saw that all you had to do was trace it. You don't have to redraw it. You're not redrawing, you're just tracing. And you're trying to get all those values that you had before in black and white into the colored piece. So see how I'm getting it darker? Now I still want it darker still. Maybe, I suppose you could say I was exaggerating a little bit, but that's fine. You can exaggerate a little bit to make it more dramatic. I'm going to make this a little more dramatic at the base. So see, I've done that, and then I run it around the edge. Now in here, and I'll show you, in here it's really dark. Your tendency is to go with black. Do not do that. Make a dark blue. How do you make dark blue, Miss Fleming? Well, I'm going to take my blue, I'm going to put a little brown in it, and I'm going to make a dark color. See how that's dark? I have to be careful not to get it into my pumpkin, or I'll end up with a brown streak or a blue streak in it. Now, you want it to go right up against the edge of that pumpkin, and that makes that pumpkin, even though that's the dark part of the pumpkin, pop out. I traced some of these dark places in the basket. It doesn't have to look exactly like the basket. You can vary it a little bit. So there's a little bit there. I'm mostly just painting in the negative here since I had this paint on my brush and I don't want to waste it. So here and here, a little bit here, and there's a little bit right here because I'm looking at my colors here. But see how this orange is darker than that orange? So you blend it in. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I could go over it with crayon and make it darker still. This basket, it's like mostly whitish beige. So how would I make that color? Well, I'm going to mix this brown and this brown. And you may not have that. I just found this. You can see this is old and been used a lot. And then I'm going to put a lot of water with it. And then I can, now if I get it too dark, I kind of want it cooler than that because the basket has a coolness to it. So going to do this and see how that it's not perfect, but it's darn close. And I can use this by moving it all around. I can use just this little bit of paint to paint a great deal of this basket. So see how, one of the things I like about painting is it can go really, really fast. So I have to be careful I don't mess up my colors. Is this no, it's too blue. Ah, too dark. Lots and lots of water. And don't worry if it bleeds a little bit. It might. Because you're going to fix that later on. So this, we'll do this. Now, see how this is the, and if you have a paper napkin or a towel, you can always pull that off, but I kind of like to leave it there. Okay, this blue is a really intense deep blue. So I'm going to, almost a purple, so I add a little red to it. And the thing about paint is you don't have to be quite as careful as you do with pencil about making it exact. So, yes. I want this part to be really, really dark. Be careful when it's wet next to wet. But you can see how. Now, I would let that dry and then go in later and fill in any white spots. But right now, I'm just letting it dry. So I always start on the right side. It could be that you as an artist start on the other side. Now, I'm a little concerned about this highlight on this pepper. So I want to go ahead and very, very lightly draw that in so I don't paint there. Because it really is white where the highlights are. And I want it to have its highlights so it looks nice and fresh and yummy. Not that we run around eating peppers straight out. Tim laughed.
My fiance actually does. Well, she adds some spice to it.
Oh, actually, some of the kids that I worked with who were migrant children, they would eat pears like, or I mean, tomatoes and peppers like they were apples. So I kind of found that interesting. I couldn't do that.
See, I used to eat tomatoes just straight out the garden, but I don't anymore.
You like them with a little dressing, huh?
I would put a bit of salt on them. And I don't know, it's just like perfect.
Now, I'm turning this upside down so that I don't get my hand in the wet paint, because I really do have to brace my hand. That looks like it's pretty much the right color. A little pinky, but that's okay. So I'm going around those little white highlights that I noted for myself, and I'm going to let this dry before I put in the darkness on top. Now I can use colored pencil to do that, or I could use crayon. Whatever you've got, use it. I used to not like dressing. Now I'll put a little bit of dressing on it, on a salad, but I really just kind of like it straight up. Which probably saves a lot of calories for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So you may have to play with your colors to get the red you want. I had to. So. And see, this is not giving me a good point, so, and I might want a good point. So what I'm going to do here is, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm spinning the brush. And when you spin the brush, you can get a point, if it's a good brush. If it's those ones that are plastic, don't even bother with those. Sometimes they come with the sets. Look for a separate brush you can get somewhere like Michael's. Don't spend a lot of money on it unless you take really good care of it. Never mop the floor. Don't spread out the hairs on a brush, because that ruins the brush. There. Okay, so you see how I got the highlights on this pepper that way? And I'll move the date on these. I wasn't sure when we would get these done, to be honest. I had no idea how long it was going to take us to do anything. Because when we're in the room, I can monitor you and help you and show you how to do things faster. But online, it's not always that easy. So if you notice, there's a white highlight on the top of this right there. So I'm going to look for, I have a white pencil, and I'm going to see, that's not going to work. Let's move this around with my fingers. Move all that around, because see how light that beige is? That's hardly there at all, is it? Okay, so, nope, still won't do it. Let me look at my magic crayon. Wonder if that'll work. Huh, this crayon thing this is glitter white. I don't notice it being glittery, do you? Okay, and it's not showing up either. Pooey. Let's see if we can do one little thing with just crayon. And you know what I want to do with crayon? This leaf right here. So I'm gonna do this part. And then, I don't know if you've ever looked at leaves, but they have a main vein here, and then they have veins that go out to the tips. So everywhere there's a little pointy part, there's a line that goes out to it. And how do I know that? I just spend a lot of time staring at stuff. That's what artists do. They study things. So we need a warm yellow, so let's make it really kind of warm. And if you're working with crayon and watercolor, it's really fun because you can, and it doesn't have to be perfect. See what it does? It rides up on top of that crayon, and it makes it look very much like it does in real life. So if you look at that right in there, I'm going to bleed red into here. Really red. Church bells ringing. I love the church bells.
They sound peaceful.
Yeah, they do. We went to church there a couple of times. My husband didn't like the priest, so, you know, we went back to St. Francis, but that priest is gone, so I was thinking, why can't we go back there again? I mean, it's right behind the house, for goodness sake. Okay, so this one, the veins are that crimson color that I used in, I could use this color. This will work for the stem and the veins in that. Can you play with this? Sure. Just so it looks colorful and it has shading. Yeah, the leaves you can really play with as far as bleeding the colors together. So here is my leaf, and it's kind of a red violet. Let's see if I can get that color, sort of. More. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, that's kind of muddy. But there it is. It just needed water. Okay, let's give it some more red. No, I like that, but maybe I put some colored pencil in there. So what do I see? I see a kind of a brightish reddish orangey color. So can you put it in there? Sure, why not? And then you could paint right over the top of that. Is it going to match the leaf in the picture exactly? Probably not. But then if we wanted exact, we would use the photograph. But we're not. We're making a painting. So please work on these so they look good. We're going to do stuff with a couple of Christmas themes next week for the video that Miss Naraki's doing. So I'm going to be moving along. So don't take too long on this. You could take an afternoon and just enjoy painting. I know that's a hard concept for a lot of you, but really, I'll bet you Tim back there could do that.
Painting is fun.
Yeah. And you could spend a whole afternoon doing it, couldn't you? We did one day. Now that I think about it, we already did that. And then I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to make it light blue. How do you make a light blue? Oh, when your water starts to look like this, get fresh water. Don't paint with dirty water. I might have to cut that there. But it's words to live by. Don't paint with dirty water. Because you'll get a dirty picture. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of blue right there. Let me test it up here in this scrappy bit. Okay. So it's kind of grayed in, and then this part is there, and then I want to take that brown, and the dark part of the brown comes around, so I'm going to take it around here, and I'm going to bleed this into it, and see how. And I want a highlight there, so just want a little teeny highlight. So I'm going to take a Kleenex. Oh, that was more than I wanted there. Okay, let's go. That'll work. You don't have to be real obsessive about it. I do want that corner there to be dark. And then there's a kind of a light blue there. So, yeah. I don't know. Did I have a light blue in there? I must have. Oh, got in my pumpkin. Oh no. Oh no. So keep a paper towel or something nearby. Now, let me lay this down and find a brown. Sometimes I have to look at the handle because the colors are so small. Yeah, that's all right. Take a little brown and put it in there. I don't want to lose that. I sort of finger paint a lot here. You may have noticed that. There. So on this side, I want to do something with crayon. So let's start with a yellow crayon. Make this guy yellow. And then, oh, there's a piece of fruit behind him that I did not trace, sorry. And that's red, so let's find the right shade of red. No, that's orange. Sometimes when you're looking for red, you find everything but. That's still orange. Who knew there were that many kinds of oranges? I don't know what that says. It's metallic. God knows what that is. Ah, red. And it has it in 3 languages. Rojo, which is Spanish, and Rouge, which is French. And this is wet, so I'm going to turn it upside down to color this. And when you color, just like when you paint, you do it in the shape of the thing. So make your strokes with your crayon in the shape it is, and fill it in solid, because otherwise it's not going to look right. And its little stem is brown, and that's a pretty ordinary color. I bet everybody has a brown crayon. And it goes up and around. Actually, I'm looking at it upside down, so that's the stem. And then when I go around to do the background, which you can do in paint or crayon, I'm going to go between here. And see how that apple stands out once I go round it with a dark blue? So, let's try to right side up. There we go. And we want this particular little green stem to come up beyond our there, because then we're going to outline around it. Does it have to match exactly? No, I don't care. But if you put a dark color behind something light, it will pop forward, which is an artist's trick to get you to look exactly where they want you to look. So there you are. It's a trick of the eye, which really isn't much of a trick. It's just getting you to look where they want you to look. And I want a better point than that, so I'll spin it here in a minute. How are we doing for time on this tape?
I have no clue.
Me neither.
How do you think?
I'm guessing we have 7 minutes.
You are at 24 minutes, so you should probably start wrapping up soon.
Oh, okay. Guess I was off on that one.
Oh, yeah. Just a little bit.
Off by a country mile. And you use a darker brown to go over your pencil lines. And you can use Remember to spin your brush. And you might want some streaks because there's some streaks in that. Make it beautiful so Miss Naraki will be pleased and impressed with our work. And next, you might take like an afternoon and work on this just for fun and because not just for a grade. Don't ever do it just for a grade. Do it for the pleasure of doing it. If it doesn't give you pleasure, for goodness sakes, don't take any more art classes, and definitely don't take it in college. They'll eat you alive. They ain't playing. So, and there was another line of it right here. And if it's too intense, you just get it wetter. And all of a sudden your line becomes calmer. Now, I was gonna get a crayon and do this in a little bit. I don't know, gotta watch it, I don't get my hand in it. That's not orange enough. Can you go over it? Sure. Go over it. And I need an orange that is lighter. Let's see what this looks like. Oh yeah, that's more what I had in mind. We did that on the bottom where it won't show as much and it'll just look like a shadow, so we're just gonna go over that. And the Etruscans, as I understand it, invented the crayon. So right up there with inventing the arts, they invented the crayon. There's a highlight there, so I'm not going to make that any darker. Okay. So this would take me probably another half hour or more to finish. And somebody said, well, what do you charge? Well, generally you charge by the hour, so I would say, I don't know, 120, something like that. Almost all the artists I know do that. They sort of pay themselves by the hour.
Yep, same here.
Yep, that's what Tim does.
Well, I will also inflate it depending on
What?
how well I think it turned out.
Yeah, that's true.
So like the hour is kind of like the base rate. Then if I think it was a good painting, I'll add maybe $100 more to it.
Yeah, luckily I don't make my living that way, so. Because if somebody really liked it, I'd be hard-pressed not to give it to them. I'm kind of a wimp. On the other hand, I expect you guys to do better than that. So.
You gotta learn to drive a hard bargain sometimes.
I know. Well, I've never had too many people fight about what I was charging.
Yeah. I've had to haggle a little bit with some people. But that's because I'm dealing with poor folks just like me. So we have a limited amount of money, so we have to, prioritize. Art is like a luxury item. It's not a necessity that you need to live.
Yeah, I know.
So it's really, if you have that disposable income, then you can buy it. But you have those that are in the low class, like I am, that want to buy art. So you have to also adjust a little bit. Because I want people to have art. I want everybody to have.
I like to make my stuff affordable so that it'll hang in somebody's house. The art you see in a lot of museums anymore, like when they do a barrel the size of this room,
Mm-hmm.
That's that's not sensible art. That's what I would call institutional art. If you've got a big space, you can put it there, but it's not practical for most human beings. So,
We do gotta end this.
okay, guys, show me your problems. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna put the due date on this for next week. Kane, trace your color one and make it black and white. If you and Alyssa, do fill in your shading for your line one, and then you can trace it and paint it. So that should get everybody in the right place, I hope. All right,
Bye.
bye.